Hello there, and welcome to yet another Fortnite video where I end up looking back on the past and thinking, what have they done? So, Fortnite Season X, that's where we're at right now, and it's fair to say that it's very, very different from when Fortnite first began. It was, although we look back on it with a lot of nostalgia and love, really, when you think about it, Fortnite Season 1 wasn't that great. It was missing a lot of really important features that we all take for granted today, like stuff like auto run, turbo building, hell, even being able to build through like an object in the world. You couldn't do that. And as well as that, everything was very unbalanced, and it was all 20 minutes of people walking very slowly, crouch walking as well, through open fields and hoping not to get shot. So it's definitely changed quite a bit now. If you look at Fortnite Season X and where it's at, it's almost a completely different game. It's not the game it once was. It's just such a crazy amalgamation of so many different things. So I thought it'd be interesting to look back at Fortnite Season 1's very first trailer and see how much it has changed in the meantime. Just a quick note, because the trailer itself has copyrighted music, I will have to put over just a random Fortnite song. It's a really good song though, unfortunately, and I'll leave a link to it down below if you want to listen to it. Alright, let's get started. Let's go. Alright, what do we have here? The bus. Right. Already a change. I already remember that they actually made this bus quite slow to begin with. I think it was in Season 3 or 4 when they made it a lot faster. It used to go across the map at like a snail's crawl, if I remember correctly. So already something that's slightly different, even if it's just a little thing. What else do we have? Rip. Right, Wailing Woods, that is no longer a part of the game. It was, I can't quite remember when it was taken out. I think it was Season 8? Season 8 with the volcano? Yeah, I think the volcano overtook it in Season 8. It was such a nice little landing spot, Wailing Woods. You could get so many mats so easily, and it was usually low population, so if you were just looking for easy placements, it was the place to be, basically. Sometime in its life they also put an underground facility there so you could use a rift, and there was also extra loot down there, because that's the main problem with Wailing Woods to begin with, that the loot wasn't that great, but they eventually added to it and improved it, and it's a real shame that it's not there anymore. I don't even know what's there nowadays. It's definitely not as memorable or as fun to play in as Wailing Woods, so I hope it comes back during Season X as a rift zone at some point. That'd be sweet. And on we go. Wow, okay. So this is retail. This is retail right here. It's technically still in the game, but it's got zombies in it, so I don't really think that counts. I'm not counting it. I don't really think you should count it either. This is my favourite landing spot of all time. I remember I would always come here, always this side of retail. Too much of a wimp to go in the houses, and this was just always an absolute mess. But I'd always land here. This is probably the best landing spot of them all though in terms of loot. The little doggy house there usually gave you a chest, and at this point there was no underground place there either, so yeah, it's changed a lot in the time since retail. Let's have a look at the outside. All of this seems to be the same, and I don't think the houses inside have changed much. Of course there was, what was it, Neo Retail? I can't remember what it was called. It was rubbish. Mega Mall, that was awful. Awful, ruining the greats there. Right, on we go. I should keep pausing it's so different, it's crazy. I keep pausing every second. This is Loot Lake. I remember this being an absolute nightmare to get around, just because it was all water, and back in those days you wouldn't be able to find the loot on top of the water. It would always go underneath, so if you killed anyone, then you basically lost your stuff or had to amble around underwater for ages trying to find stuff. There was I think this at the bottom here, this is where the house was, which is now I think part of the Kevin Floating Island still. I can't quite, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, this was a nightmare. This was, I remember, a very advanced strat in the early days of Fortnite where you would basically use pyramids to get across, and then so you would bob up and down, so it was harder to get headshot, but you'd always get headshot, you'd always get sniped here, and it was just it was a nightmare. The house had nothing in it, and that was where everyone dropped. They always never seemed to want to drop at the factories, and I'm not sure why, but anyway. So back at retail now. Nothing too different here. Shopping carts, I think they're still there but static and they can't be used. I think they were added as vehicles in Season 3, which was crazy to me. I never thought they'd ever get vehicles, and now it's just so much stuff. Wow, look at that. Look at that distinct lack of water on there. He deserved his death. She, rather. That's interesting to note as well. The death animation, that's completely changed. They used to kind of sit there for a minute and then disappear, but now they just basically completely disappear straight away when they're killed. So I think it was probably because it was a bit too much for kids that they changed that. It's not a massive change, not one that makes much of a difference really. Is that Fatal? I think that's Fatal, not Anarchy. I wish they'd bring back Anarchy, I really do. Wow, here we go. The Directional Launch Pad. They used to have these and ones on the side as well, but they eventually incorporated them into just the one launch pad, which everyone loves and agrees on. You had the bounce pads as well at some point, but they have been unfortunately vaulted. I feel like they were probably the most fun entry or addition to Fortnite in its entire history. And I'm not that salty they're not there, but I am salty, however, about this beautiful little container. They never really gave it a name, so I'm going to call it Cozy Containers. Basically the best place to land for brand new players who'd only just picked up a PlayStation 4 controller first time after taking their pacifier out. It's just such an easy place to land because it's always so dead. But looting here was like trying to find a kid who didn't want a Skull Trooper skin back in 2018. It was pretty rampant. I think they dropped. What did they drop then? I think that person dropped something. A gun that's no longer in the game. What's that? That's the burst rifle. That's no longer in the game. It was also terrible anyway. So there's nothing worse than getting a common burst assault rifle off the bat. You knew you were doomed then, basically. This is Fatal. I think this house has been fixed now, if I'm not mistaken. There's no longer all of this in it. It's not Fatal, sorry. It's Salty. Salty. And this was not a part of the game for a long time, but they've kind of brought it back now with the Zapper Trap. But this was awful. This thing, it was so loud, you could never get anyone with it, and it's kind of completely pointless. If you'll notice as well, they changed the loot. The loot was very vibrant back then. It was massive as well. You could see it from a mile away. Yep, sounds about right. Default running at a man with a grenade launcher with a scar out. Yep. Why is this still in the game? So many good weapons have come and gone in the game, and some have never returned. But this awful thing is still in the game. Okay, so what they've just done here is something called as false marketing or fake marketing, where basically someone actually gets a kill with a semi-auto sniper, but that's virtually impossible. Okay, so I'm going to complain to the FTC about this. Can you imagine trying to do this in 2019? I used to do this all the time. Bridge strats. Of course, it wasn't a covered bridge, so that was a bit of an issue for me always. I always forgot to break it down afterwards as well. Now you see here, this is the very first version of the tactical SMG, and it was terrible. It had the same spread as the rise of cholera in Europe in the Dark Ages. It was awful. You couldn't hit a thing with it, and it would constantly miss. So what they did, basically, they vaulted it and then brought it back, rebranded it. I think that's completely overpowered and is just a laser now. Anyone who says they misses this is a complete liar. Obviously, you see him hitting one shot there over about 20, so that's quite accurate. And you see again, there is some changes with how loot looks. That massive jug, that's the size of a chug jug now. The bridge. I don't know if there's any bridges left in Fortnite. Any of these style bridges. I think this is Tomato Town. I think. I'm not sure. I can't quite. Yeah, that looks like the Tomato Town bridge. Yeah, all of this is gone, I'm pretty sure. So someone had broken this down, obviously. I used to always come out here and collect this. There was a sign here, and then there's a little hut over here that sometimes had stuff in it. And then there was usually a chest right about here, one or two chests. Good old days. Be good if you had that now. A directional launch pad that would send you up and ahead. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, bring that back. Rocket launcher still OP. I'm so surprised they never vaulted that, not once. Right now, this is this is crazy in the context of what Fortnite is now, obviously, because you can't build anything like this. In what universe would someone have the time to build this beautiful Dickensian structure right here? You wouldn't. You'd basically just have that, if anything. The storm also changed. It had all these. It had like a honeycomb effect for a while. But now it's just blue, if I remember correctly. Yep, sniper kill to finish it off with, and then a rocket launcher. So yeah, quite a lot has changed there. I've done this video just because it's coming up to September 26th, which was the launch of Fortnite Battle Royale for the first time. So I thought it'd be a nice little way to tie into that and see how far along it's come in 2 years. Obviously, a lot of people want to go back to the start of Fortnite and how good it was, but I think that's just nostalgia talking. But what I think they need to do instead is maybe have a nice middle ground, somewhere like Season 5 where it wasn't too much, because right now Fortnite is just, to me anyway, it's a confusing soup of so many different things. The map is like a bric-a-brac of just random ideas from developers and misguided attempts to keep it fresh. I think, honestly speaking, I feel like they need to go back to the simple stuff, and then they will do well. Anyway, what did you think of this? Is there anything I missed in this trailer here? Anything that is no longer in the game from Season 1 that you noticed here? Let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.